Corporal Tae-min Kim stood at the viewing port of the transport ship and watched the massive space station grow larger. The Interstellar Combat Training Facility looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly against the stars. Somewhere inside that metal ring, hundreds of alien cadets were learning how to fight. Soon, Tae-min would be there too. First time seeing it? Lieutenant Hana Park stepped beside him. She carried a data pad under her arm and looked tired from the long journey. "Yeah," Tae-min said. "It's bigger than I thought. Everything out here is bigger than we thought." Hana smiled. "Wait until you meet the Krell. They make our basketball players look short." Tae-min had seen pictures, but pictures didn't really prepare anyone for meeting aliens face to face. The Galactic Coalition had 70 member species. Humans joined only 15 years ago. In galactic terms, humans were the new kids who just showed up to school. The transport docked an hour later. When the airlock opened, Tae-min got his first real look at the station. The corridor stretched in both directions, wide enough to drive a truck through. The walls were dark metal with glowing panels. Everything smelled clean but strange, like antiseptic mixed with something he couldn't identify. "The gravity feels light," Tae-min noted. "Standard galactic gravity," Hana explained. "It's about 75% of Earth normal. Most species prefer it. Makes everything easier for them. Makes us stronger," Tae-min said quietly. "Exactly." They walked through the station following the guide markers. Other beings moved through the corridors. Tae-min saw a group of tall, scaled creatures that had to be saurians. They walked upright like humans, but had long tails and clawed hands. Their skin looked like it could stop a knife. One of them glanced at Tae-min and made a sound that might have been laughter. Further down, a massive four-armed alien stood talking to two smaller beings covered in what looked like crystal. The four-armed one was a Krell. It stood at least 8 feet tall, and each arm was thick with muscle. The crystal-covered beings were Valaks. Their bodies reflected the corridor lights, like walking diamonds. "They're all staring at us," Tae-min said. "They always do," Hana replied. "Humans look weird to them. Soft skin. Small. No natural weapons. They think we're fragile. Are we going to change their minds? That's why we're here." They reached the orientation hall 20 minutes later. The room was enormous, with seats arranged in rising circles like an amphitheater. At least 200 cadets filled the space, representing a dozen different species. The seats were built large to accommodate different body types. Tae-min and Hana looked tiny in the oversized chairs. At the front of the hall stood Instructor Vex Thor. He was a saurian, nearly 7 feet tall, with deep green scales and yellow eyes. He wore the academy uniform, but his claws poked through specialized gloves. When he spoke, his voice came through the translation devices everyone wore. "Welcome to Combat Training Week." "Vex," Thor began. "This facility represents the finest warriors from across the Coalition. Each species brings unique advantages to warfare. The Saurians bring strength and natural armor. The Krell bring multiple limbs and crushing power. The Valaks bring crystalline defense. 17-1. The Saurians bring crystalline defense." He paused, and his eyes swept the room. When his gaze landed on Tae-min and Hana, something like amusement crossed his reptilian features. "And some species," Vex Thor continued, "bring other qualities. Curiosity, perhaps. Determination. Though what they lack in physical gifts, they must compensate for in other ways." A few cadets made sounds that the translators interpreted as laughter. Tae-min kept his face neutral. Beside him, Hana's jaw tightened slightly, but she said nothing. "This week, each species will demonstrate their combat techniques," Vex Thor announced. "We will learn from each other. We will see what makes each race effective in close-quarters battle. The Saurians will demonstrate first, the Krell second, the Valaks third." He consulted his data pad. "The humans will demonstrate last," Vex Thor said. The way he said it made it clear what he thought. The humans would be the entertainment after the real warriors finished. After orientation, the human delegation gathered in their assigned quarters. Besides Taemin and Hana, there was young cadet Jiwon Lee and Commander Bora Choi. Jiwon had just graduated from the academy on Earth and practically vibrated with nervous energy. Commander Bora was a 45-year-old veteran who had seen more combat than everyone else in the room combined. "Did you hear how he talked about us?" Jiwon said. "Like we're some kind of joke. Let him think that," Commander Bora said calmly. She sat in one of the oversized chairs with her feet barely touching the floor. "Underestimation is a weapon if you know how to use it." "The commander's right," Hana added. "They all think we're weak because we don't have claws or armor. They don't understand what we have instead." "What do we have?" Jiwon asked. Taemin smiled. "Everything else." Everything else. Over the next 2 days, Taemin explored the training facilities. The gyms were built for beings much larger and stronger than humans. The weight equipment started at levels that would challenge an Olympic lifter. The punching bags were made of reinforced material that could take hits from Krell fists. But what interested Taemin most was the furniture. The desks in the classrooms were built from Durasteel alloy. The chairs could support half a ton of weight. The tables were bolted to the floor to prevent the Krell from accidentally knocking them over. He pulled up the specifications on his data pad. Each desk weighed approximately 200 pounds and was rated to withstand several thousand pounds of force. They were designed to be indestructible. "Interesting reading?" Hana appeared beside him. "Just doing research," Taemin said. "Research on furniture, on tools." Hana looked at the desk, then at Taemin. Slowly, she smiled. "Oh, this is going to be good." That evening, Taemin went to the gym during off hours. A few alien cadets were there, working with weights that would crush a human. They glanced at him when he entered, but went back to their training. Clearly, they didn't see him as a threat. Taemin didn't touch the weights. Instead, he walked around the facility, looking at the equipment, the walls, the support beams. He picked up small objects and tested their weight. He examined how things were constructed. A Saurian cadet approached him. "Are you lost, human? The light exercise equipment is in the other wing." "Just looking around," Taemin said politely. "Looking for what?" "Weapons." The Saurian tilted his head, confused. "There are no weapons in here. This is a gym." Taemin smiled. "Depends on how you define weapon." The Saurian snorted and walked away, clearly thinking the human was strange. On the third day, Taemin sat in the demonstration hall with the others and watched the Saurians show their techniques. It was impressive. They used their natural claws and tails like built-in weapons. Their scaled skin turned away practice blades. When they grappled, their strength was overwhelming. The cadets watching made appreciative sounds. Even Jiwon looked worried. "We can't match that," she whispered to Taemin. "We don't have to match it," Taemin replied. "We just have to win anyway." The Krell demonstrated the next day. With 4 arms, they could attack and defend simultaneously. They could grab opponents from multiple angles. Their reach was incredible. When one Krell lifted another over his head with all 4 arms, the hall erupted in approval. Vex's Thor stood at the front, clearly proud of his students. His gaze drifted to the humans occasionally, and each time Taemin could see the question in his eyes. What could these soft, weak creatures possibly demonstrate that would compare? After the demonstrations, Taemin approached Vex Thor. "Instructor, I have a request for our demonstration." "Yes, human?" Vex Thor looked down at him. "I'd like to use standard academy furniture as part of our setup." Vex Thor's eyes widened slightly. "Furniture? You mean tables and chairs?" "Yes, sir. You need props because you lack natural weapons?" Vex Thor's tone made it clear what he thought of this. "Something like that," Taemin said. "Very well. Use whatever you need." Vex Thor turned away, and Taemin heard him mutter something to another instructor. The translation came through. "They will need all the help they can get." That night, Commander Bora gathered the team. "Tomorrow is our day," she said. "They think we're weak. They think we're a curiosity. They're about to learn what humans really are." "What are we?" Jiwan asked. Bora smiled. "Survivors from a death world who turned ourselves into the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." Taemin looked at his hands. No claws, no scales, just skin and bone and muscle. But inside that simple package was something none of these aliens understood yet. Humans didn't survive because they were the biggest or strongest. They survived because they were the ones who never stopped finding new ways to win. Tomorrow, the Academy would learn that lesson. The demonstration hall filled early the next morning. Cadets from all species wanted good seats for the Valak's presentation. Taemin sat in the upper section with Hana and Jiwan, watching as the crystalline beings prepared below. "They're beautiful," Jiwan whispered. The Valaks caught the light and split it into rainbows across their geometric bodies. "Beautiful and deadly," Hana corrected. The demonstration began. Two Valaks faced each other in the center ring. When they moved, their crystal bodies made soft, chiming sounds. The first one struck the second with a closed fist. The sound rang through the hall like a bell. The second Valaks didn't even flinch. The crystal absorbed the impact completely. "Their bodies are natural armor," the Valak's instructor explained through the translator. "Impacts distribute across our entire structure. It takes tremendous force to damage us. We are nearly unbreakable." The demonstration continued. They showed holds and strikes that would shatter bones in other species but barely scratch the Valaks. When one dropped from a 3-story platform onto the mat, it stood up without injury. The assembled cadets made impressed sounds. Taemin watched carefully. He saw how the Valaks moved. Their armor made them confident, maybe too confident. They didn't dodge much, because they didn't need to. Their whole fighting style assumed they could take any hit. "Impressive," Hana said quietly. "How do you fight something you can't hurt?" "You don't fight the armor," Taemin replied. "You fight around it." After the Valaks finished, the cadets broke for lunch. The dining facility was massive, designed to feed hundreds of beings with very different dietary needs. Taemin grabbed food from the human section and found a table. A group of Saurian cadets sat nearby. One of them, the same one from the gym, noticed Taemin. "Human," he called out. "Tomorrow is your demonstration." "Yes, that's right," Taemin said. "What will you show us? Do humans have hidden weapons we don't know about?" "Nothing hidden," Taemin said. "Just practical techniques." The Saurians exchanged glances and made that hissing sound that meant they were laughing. "Practical techniques. How will your practical techniques compare to natural weapons? We'll see tomorrow." "Indeed we will." The Saurian turned back to his food, clearly amused. Jiwan sat down hard at the table. "I hate this. They treat us like we're some kind of novelty act." "We are a novelty," Hana said. "To them anyway. They've never met anyone like us." "What do you mean?" "Think about it," Hana said. "Every species here evolved with natural advantages. Claws, armor, extra limbs, enhanced senses. They all had something that made them dangerous from day one. And we didn't," Jiwan said. "Exactly. We were just smart apes on a hostile planet. We should have died out. But we didn't. We learned. We adapted. We made tools. And eventually, we made ourselves into something that could survive anything." "Will that be enough here?" Taemin smiled. "It's always been enough." That afternoon, Taemin requested access to an empty training room. He spent 2 hours there alone. Hana found him later, sitting on the floor, surrounded by various pieces of equipment. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Testing weight distribution," Taemin said. He held a piece of durasteel panel, about 3 feet by 2 feet. "This weighs 40 pounds. If I grip it here and here, I can use it like a shield. Or a battering ram." "You're really going through with this?" "With what?" "Turning their own furniture into weapons against them. It's what humans do best," Taemin said. "We see a rock, We see a hammer. We see a stick. We see a spear. We see a desk. He smiled. We see an opportunity. Hana laughed. Commander Bora is going to love this. The evening before the human demonstration, the Academy held a social gathering. It was meant to encourage interaction between species. In practice, it meant most beings stuck with their own kind while eyeing others warily. Taemin stood near the refreshment area when Instructor Vex Thor approached. The Saurian moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. Corporal Taemin, Vex Thor said, I wanted to speak with you about tomorrow. Yes, Instructor. I have been thinking about your request to use furniture. I want to make sure I understand. You plan to demonstrate human combat techniques using Academy equipment as props? Tropser. 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 Not as props, Taemin said. As tools. Tools. Vex Thor's yellow eyes studied him. You understand that the other species have demonstrated with their natural abilities. No equipment needed. Just their bodies. I understand. And yet humans need furniture. Humans need whatever works, Taemin said simply. Vex Thor was quiet for a moment. You are an interesting species. Physically, you are unremarkable. No claws, no armor, average strength at best, and yet Earth managed to produce a civilization advanced enough to reach space. We're stubborn, Taemin said. Stubborn. Vex Thor made a sound that might have been a laugh. Perhaps. Or perhaps you simply had no natural predators to fear. Earth had plenty of predators, Taemin replied. We just became better predators than they were. Something flickered in Vex Thor's eyes. Not quite respect, but maybe the beginning of curiosity. Tomorrow will be very educational. For all of us. After Vex Thor left, Commander Bora appeared at Taemin's elbow. You're poking the bear, she said quietly. Is that what Saurians are? Giant bears? You know what I mean. He's expecting you to fail. They all are. I know. Good. Use that. Bora took a drink from her cup. When I first joined the coalition military, I had a Krell commander. 4 arms, 8 feet tall, strong as a tank. He told me humans would never make good soldiers, because we break too easily. What did you do? I outlasted him on a 40-mile march in full gear. He collapsed at mile 30. I carried his pack the last 10 miles. Bora smiled at the memory. He never questioned human endurance again. What's the lesson? The lesson is that everyone has weaknesses. Even species that seem invincible. Our job is to find those weaknesses and exploit them. And our weakness? Bora looked at him seriously. We don't have natural weapons. We're not the biggest or the fastest or the strongest. Our weakness is that we have to work harder than everyone else to survive. That doesn't sound like a weakness. It's not, Bora said. It's our greatest strength. We just don't realize it yet. Later that night, Taemin couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk thinking about tomorrow. The weight of the desk. The angle of approach. The timing. Everything had to be perfect. Across the room, Jiwon was awake too. Taemin, she said quietly. Yeah? Are we really going to pull this off? The demonstration? All of it. Proving that humans belong here. That we're not just some weak species that got lucky. Taemin thought about that. Do you know how humans hunted on Earth? Thousands of years ago. We used spears? Before spears. Before any tools. We just ran. Taemin stared at the ceiling. We'd find an animal, usually something bigger and faster than us, and we'd just follow it. We couldn't catch it in a sprint, so we'd jog. For hours. Sometimes, days. We'd follow that animal until it literally couldn't run anymore, until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then we'd walk up and kill it. That's kind of terrifying. That's persistence hunting. That's what made us human. We're not fast, but we never stop. We're not strong, but we heal and come back. We don't have natural weapons, so we make better ones. Every disadvantage we have, we've turned into a different kind of advantage. Jiwan was quiet for a moment. So, tomorrow we show them what that means. We show them that the species without claws learned to make knives. The species without armor learned to avoid getting hit. And the species without natural weapons learned that everything can be a weapon if you're creative enough. Everything? Everything. Taemin confirmed. The next morning arrived too quickly. Taemin, dressed in his standard combat uniform. No armor. No weapons. Just clothing and boots. He looked at himself in the mirror. Compared to the aliens he'd seen, he looked small. Vulnerable. Weak. Perfect. In the demonstration hall, every seat was filled. Word had spread that the humans were performing today. Some cadets came out of curiosity. Others came expecting entertainment. A few came hoping to see something surprising. Taemin stood backstage with his team. Through a gap in the curtain, he could see the crowd. The Saurians sat together, their scales gleaming under the lights. The Krell took up entire sections with their massive bodies. The Valaks reflected the room like living mirrors. Nervous? Hannah asked. Always. Taemin admitted. Good. Nervous keeps you sharp. She put a hand on his shoulder. You're representing every human who ever had to fight something bigger, stronger, and meaner than they were. No pressure. Hannah smiled. Commander Bora gathered them all together. Listen up. Today, these aliens learned something new. They learned that Earth didn't make the biggest predator or the strongest warrior. Earth made something better. Earth made survivors who fight smarter, not harder. She looked at each of them. Show them what that means. The lights dimmed. The demonstration was about to begin. The demonstration hall went quiet as the lights came up. Instructor Vexthor stood at the center of the floor, his scales catching the overhead illumination. He looked pleased with himself, like someone about to reveal the punchline of a joke. And now, Vexthor announced, we come to our final demonstration. The humans will show us their approach to close-quarters combat. The way he said it made several cadets chitter with amusement. A few Saurians in the front row leaned forward, clearly expecting entertainment. Before we begin, Vexthor continued, I think it's important to understand context. Humans are a recently joined species. They come from a world called Earth, which they claim is dangerous, though by coalition standards it is quite ordinary. Commander Bora stood up in the observation section. May I address that? Instructor? Vexthor looked surprised but gestured for her to continue. Bora's voice carried across the hall. Earth's gravity is 1.3 times the galactic standard that we're standing in right now. The planet has extreme weather variations, multiple climate zones, and thousands of predator species that evolved alongside humans. Our ancestors survived ice ages, droughts, megafauna, disease, and each other. We didn't have claws, so we learned to make them. We didn't have armor, so we learned not to get hit. And we didn't have the luxury of natural weapons, so we learned that everything else could become one. The room was quieter now. A few cadets exchanged glances. Vexthor recovered quickly. Fascinating history, Commander. But history and combat are different things. Shall we see what humans can actually do? Hannah walked onto the floor. She wore standard fatigues and moved with calm confidence, despite being one of the smallest beings in the room. Humans evolved as persistence hunters and tool users, Hannah began. While other species on Earth developed claws or speed or venom, we developed something different. We developed the ability to think tactically, to use our environment, and to outlast our opponents. She gestured to Taemin, who stepped into the demonstration area. He looked even more ordinary than Hannah. Average height, average build. Nothing remarkable at all. This is Corporal Taemin Kim, Hannah said. He's going to demonstrate basic human combat principles. Just basic? One of the Saurian cadets called out. Nothing advanced? Basic is usually enough, Taemin replied. That got a few laughs. Vexthor stepped forward, and Taemin could see the calculation in the instructor's yellow eyes. Perhaps, Vexthor said slowly, The demonstration would be more educational if I participated. To provide a realistic opponent. The hall erupted in excited chatter. This was better than anyone expected. A Saurian instructor against a human corporal. It would be over in seconds. Taemin met Vex Thor's gaze steadily. If the instructor wishes, I do. Vex Thor rolled his shoulders. I will attack you as I would attack any opponent. You will demonstrate your human techniques in response. Does this seem fair? Very fair. They took positions facing each other. Vex Thor stood 7 feet tall, with claws and natural armor. Taemin stood 5 to 10, with empty hands and standard boots. The size difference was dramatic. Begin when ready, Hannah called out. Vex's Thor moved fast. For something so large, he was incredibly quick. He lunged forward with his right claw extended, aiming for Taemin's shoulder. It was a controlled attack, meant to grab rather than slash. But the speed was real. Taemin sidestepped. The movement was minimal, just enough to let Vex Thor's clawed hand pass his shoulder by inches. As the Saurian's momentum carried him forward, Taemin's hand shot out and grabbed the extended wrist. What happened next took 3 seconds. Taemin used Vex Thor's own forward motion against him. He pulled the wrist down and stepped to the side, adding his body weight to the Saurian's momentum. Vex Thor's balance shifted. Taemin's other hand came up and pushed at the instructor's elbow, creating a joint lock that was suddenly, painfully tight. Vex Thor had to choice but to go with the motion or have his arm broken. He went with it. Taemin guided him down, until the Saurian's knees hit the mat. The joint lock kept Vex Thor's arm extended at an unnatural angle. One more inch of pressure, and something would tear. The hall was absolutely silent. The principle is redirection, Taemin said calmly, still holding the lock. Use the opponent's strength against them, their momentum, their size. Make it a disadvantage instead of an advantage. He released the hold and stepped back. Vex's Thor stood up slowly. His expression was hard to read, but his tail was held very still. That was a bad sign in Saurians. It meant anger. Again, Vex Thor said. Instructor, Hannah started. Again, Vex Thor repeated. I was not prepared. Now I am. Taemin nodded. Whenever you're ready. This time Vex Thor didn't lunge. He approached carefully, claws up, watching for the same trick. He was stronger than Taemin. Bigger. He had natural weapons. If he could get a solid grip, the fight would be over. He reached for Taemin's arm. Taemin didn't retreat. Instead, he did something that made several cadets gasp. He advanced. As Vex Thor reached forward, Taemin stepped inside his guard, getting closer instead of farther away. This put him past the Saurian's claws and right up against his body. Before Vex Thor could adjust, Taemin grabbed something, the edge of the instructor's desk. The desk was standard academy issue, Durasteel construction, designed to withstand a Krell sitting on it. It weighed 200 pounds and was built to be practically indestructible. Taemin lifted it. His legs drove upward, his core engaged, his arms pulled. The desk came up off the floor with a screech of metal on metal. The bolts holding it down snapped, and then Taemin was holding 200 pounds of reinforced furniture like an oversized shield. Vex Thor's eyes went wide. Taemin swung. The desk hit Vex Thor in the center of his chest with a sound like a car crash. The impact lifted the Saurian off his feet and threw him backward. He sailed through the air, tail whipping, arms flailing, and crashed into the mat 15 feet away. The desk shattered. Pieces of Durasteel scattered across the floor. The metal frame bent at impossible angles. The surface cracked into several chunks. The sound echoed through the demonstration hall like thunder. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Taemin stood in the center of the floor, still holding part of the desk's frame. He was breathing hard, but steady. He looked at the destroyed furniture. Then at Vex Thor, who was still lying on the mat, stunned. Humans use tools, Taemin said into the silence. We always have. On Earth, our ancestors used rocks to break bones for marrow. sticks to dig for roots, fire to cook food. We turned our entire environment into an arsenal. He dropped the piece of frame. It clanged on the floor. Everything is a weapon. Taemin continued. A desk, a chair, a piece of metal, a rock. It doesn't matter what it is. If a human is holding it, it's dangerous. Vex Thor slowly got to his feet. His chest plate scales were cracked. He would have bruises that lasted weeks. But he was alive. And from the look in his eyes, he understood something he hadn't before. How? Vex Thor's voice was hoarse. How did you lift that? The desk weighs 200 pounds, Taemin finished. Earth gravity is higher than standard. We're stronger than we look. We train in resistance every day, just by existing on our home world. A Krell in the front row stood up. But the force required to throw him, to break the desk. Leverage, Hana spoke up. Humans are excellent at using leverage. We understand physics instinctively because we had to. We couldn't survive on strength alone, so we learned to maximize every advantage. This is... A Valix cadet searched for words. This is disturbing. This is humanity. Commander Bora said. We're not the biggest. We're not the strongest. But we're the ones who survived a planet that tried to kill us for millions of years. And we didn't just survive. We thrived. Jiwon stepped onto the floor. May I demonstrate something? Taemin nodded and moved aside. Jiwon was smaller than him, lighter, and looked even less dangerous. She picked up a chair that was bolted to the floor. The bolts resisted for a moment, then snapped. She held the chair like it weighed nothing. This is what Earth gravity does to human bone density, Jiwon explained. It makes us dense, compact. We can carry more relative to our body weight than most species here. And we can do it for extended periods. She set down the chair and picked up a Krell cadet. The alien had to weigh 400 pounds at least, but Jiwon lifted him in a fireman's carry and walked around the demonstration area. The Krell looked absolutely shocked. Persistence, Jiwon said, setting him down gently. Humans can carry heavy loads for miles, days even. We don't quit. It's not in our biology to quit. An alarm went off in one corner. A Saurian cadet had tried to replicate Taemin's desk lift. He'd pulled his back muscles and needed medical attention. The cadet was carried out while others watched nervously. I don't recommend trying that, Hana said. Human spinal structure is different. We evolved to be upright. Our backs can handle vertical loads that would cripple other species. Everything about you is a weapon, Vex Thor said quietly. He was still standing but looked shaken. Your strength, your endurance, your ability to improvise. Not everything, Taemin corrected. But enough. A voice called from the observation deck. How do you defeat an enemy you cannot overpower? Taemin looked up at the speaker, a Valix instructor. You don't try to overpower them. You outthink them. You outlast them. You use what's available. And you never, ever give up. Even against superior forces? Especially against superior forces. Taemin's voice was steady. That's all we've ever faced. On Earth, we were prey before we were predators. Everything was bigger than us, faster than us. We should have died out, but we didn't. Know why? The hall was silent. Because we learned that it doesn't matter how big you are if I can drop a rock on your head from a tree. It doesn't matter how fast you are if I can outlast you over distance. It doesn't matter how strong you are if I can use your strength against you. He gestured at the broken desk. We turned our weakness into philosophy. Then we turned that philosophy into victory. Every single time. Vex's Thor walked over to the destroyed desk. He touched one of the broken pieces, and his claw scraped against the metal. I have been an instructor for 20 years. I have trained warriors from 40 species. And I have never seen anything like this. Good, Commander Bora said. That means the demonstration was successful. Successful? Vex Thor looked at her. Commander, you have just shown the entire Academy that humans are far more dangerous than anyone believed. We know. Bora smiled. That was the point. The demonstration hall didn't empty after the humans finished. Instead, cadets swarmed the floor, surrounding Tae-min, Hana, Ji-won, and Commander Bora. The questions came in a flood. How much can humans actually lift? A Krell cadet asked, all four arms gesturing. It varies by individual, Hana replied. But our best strength athletes can deadlift over 1,000 pounds earth weight. That's about 700 pounds in this gravity. That's impossible, Valak said. Your muscle structure is too small. Our muscle structure is dense, Tae-min corrected. A young Saurian pushed forward. But the desk. How did you generate enough force to break it? Momentum, Tae-min explained. I used my legs, my core, my whole body. Humans train something called compound movements. We don't isolate muscle groups like some species. We move as a complete system. Show us, several voices called out. Tae-min looked at Hana, who shrugged. He found a piece of the broken desk, about 40 pounds of twisted metal. He set it on the floor. Watch my form, Tae-min said. He bent at the knees, kept his back straight, gripped the metal, and stood up in one smooth motion. The lift engaged his legs, glutes, back, and arms all together. Everything moves as one. That's how you maximize force. The cadets watched carefully. A few tried to copy the movement with other objects. Most failed to coordinate their limbs properly. It looks simple, a Krell observed. But it's not. Most effective things are simple, Tae-min said. Complicated techniques fall apart under stress. Simple works when you're tired, scared, and fighting for your life. A female Valak's instructor approached Commander Bora. Commander, I have a question about human skeletal structure. When Corporal Tae-min lifted that desk, why didn't his arms break? Our calculations suggest the stress should have fractured his bones. Bora smiled. Human bones are incredibly dense. We have some of the strongest bones in the coalition relative to our size. Do you know why? Higher gravity? Partly, but also impact. Bora picked up a piece of desk and dropped it. The clang echoed. Humans evolved running. Our ancestors ran for hours, days even. Every footstep is an impact. Thousands of impacts per day for millions of years. Our bones evolved to handle constant stress. They're not just strong, they're resilient. But they do break? The Valaks pressed. Of course. But they heal, usually stronger than before. Human bones remodel themselves after stress. We call it adaptation. Ji-won fielded questions from a group of younger cadets. Can all humans do what Corporal Tae-min did? With training, most can, Ji-won said. Tae-min is military, so he's trained more than average. But basic human capabilities are pretty standard across our population. Even the females? A Saurian asked. Especially the females, Ji-won replied coolly. Human females have different strength distributions than males. But we're still from Earth. Still evolved in high gravity. Still dangerous. To prove her point, Ji-won did a set of pull-ups on an overhead beam. She made it look easy. Several alien cadets tried to copy her. Most couldn't do a single pull-up in the lower gravity. How? One asked, frustrated. Relative strength, Ji-won explained. I weigh less than you. But my muscles are proportionally stronger for my body weight. Plus, I've been training in Earth gravity my whole life. This feels light to me. Across the room, Vex Thor sat on a bench, while a medic examined his cracked chest scales. The Saurian instructor watched the humans answer questions with an expression that was hard to read. Hana approached him. Instructor, are you all right? Physically, I will recover, Vex Thor said. Mentally. He paused. I have been teaching combat for 20 years. I thought I understood warfare. I thought I understood what made a species dangerous. And now, Now I realize I understood nothing about humans. He looked at her directly. Your species is terrifying. We're survivors, Hana said simply. No. Vex Thor shook his head. You're more than that. Survivors endure. You overcome. There's a difference. Is there? A survivor hides from predators. A human hunts them. Vex Thor touched his cracked scales. I am 7 feet tall. I have natural armor and claws. I have trained in combat since I was young. And your corporal defeated me in seconds using furniture. He used your assumptions against you, Hana said. You assumed he was weak. You assumed he needed close combat to be dangerous. You assumed the environment was neutral. All false assumptions. All common assumptions. Hana corrected. Everyone makes them about humans at first. We look soft, vulnerable, easy to defeat. Then, they learn. A group of cadets gathered around a data pad, watching a replay of the demonstration. The moment when Tae-min lifted the desk, played over and over. They measured the angles, calculated the forces, analyzed the technique. It shouldn't work, one said. But it did, another replied. Look at his leg drive. He generates all that force from the ground up. And the timing. Perfect timing. They rewound and watched again. Tae-min, throwing Vex Thor across the room. The desk shattering. The absolute shock on everyone's faces. We need to learn this, a Krell cadet said firmly. Agreed. Several others responded. By evening, the recreation area was full of cadets, attempting human exercises. Pull-ups, push-ups, squats, deadlifts. Most struggled badly. Their bodies weren't designed for this type of training. Tae-min found a Saurian cadet trying to do a push-up and failing. Your arms are too far apart, he said. Bring them in. Engage your core. The Saurian adjusted his position and managed 3 push-ups before collapsing. It gets easier, Tae-min assured him. Humans have been doing these movements for thousands of years. They're part of our basic training. How young do humans start combat training? Officially? Around 18 years old, for military. But most of us fight, as children. Wrestling, martial arts, sports. We learn body mechanics early. The Saurian looked amazed. You train your young for combat? We train our young to move efficiently, Tae-min corrected. The combat application comes later. That night, the Academy's communication networks buzzed with activity. Cadets messaged their homeworlds. Instructors filed reports. Video of the demonstration spread through coalition channels. In the human quarters, the team gathered to debrief. Well, Commander Bora said, we certainly made an impression. Did we go too far? G1 asked. Breaking the desk, I mean. Was that excessive? It was necessary, Hana said. They needed to see what we're capable of. Words wouldn't convince them. They needed demonstration. We've received 17 requests for training sessions, Bora reported. From 9 different species. They want to learn human techniques. Can we teach them? Ji-won asked. Tae-min considered. Some of it. The principles are universal. Leverage, timing, using your environment. But some things are uniquely human. Our endurance. Our pain tolerance. The way we process exhaustion. Our willingness to break furniture in combat situations, Hana added with a smile. That too. A message came through on Bora's datapad. She read it and laughed. The Academy Commandant wants to meet with us. He's impressed. And concerned. Concerned about what? About what else we haven't shown them yet. The next day, Vex Thor appeared at the human training area. His chest was bandaged under his uniform. But he moved normally. He watched Tae-min running through a basic combat sequence. May I speak with you? Vex Thor asked. Of course, Instructor. They walked to a quieter corner of the facility. Vex's Thor was silent for a long moment, before speaking. How many wars has your species fought? The question surprised Tae-min. Against aliens? None. Before we joined the coalition. Not against aliens. Against yourselves. Oh. Taemin thought about human history. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. We've been fighting each other for our entire existence as a species. Vex's Thor's eyes widened. Thousands of wars? Against your own kind? Humans are competitive, Taemin said. We fight over territory, resources, beliefs, pride. Sometimes, we fight just to prove we can win. And you survived this? Your species didn't destroy itself? Almost did. Several times. We developed weapons that could wipe out our entire world. We came very close to using them. All. But you didn't. We learned, Taemin said. Eventually, we realized the real enemy wasn't each other. It was ignorance, hunger, disease, the universe itself. So we stopped fighting each other and started fighting those things instead. And when you met us, other species, we were relieved, Taemin admitted. Finally, something new to focus on. New challenges. New problems to solve. The coalition gave us purpose beyond our own conflicts. Vexthor was quiet. Do you know what frightens me about humans? What? You are a species that evolved fighting itself. You developed tactics to defeat enemies that thought like you. That were as smart as you. As creative as you. Every species here evolved fighting predators and prey. Simple creatures guided by instinct. But humans? You evolved fighting humans. What does that mean? It means, Vexthor said slowly, that you know how to fight intelligence. You know how to counter strategy with better strategy. You know how to predict, adapt, overcome. Most species here would panic fighting something as smart as themselves. Taemin had never thought about it that way. We're not that special, he said. No, Vexthor replied. You're worse. You're ordinary. That desk breaking? That strength? That improvisation? You said that's basic human capability. That terrifies me more than anything. Because if that's basic, what can your species actually do when pushed? I guess you'll find out, Taemin said. If you keep training with us. I intend to, Vexthor said. Someone needs to understand humans. And I think I just volunteered. 2 weeks after the demonstration, the Academy's main auditorium was packed. Every species sent representatives. The human combat seminar was about to begin. Taemin stood backstage with his team, looking through the curtain at the crowd. Hundreds of cadets filled the seats. Even the instructors were there, including Vex's Thor in the front row. Nervous? Commander Bora asked. Always, Taemin replied. But ready. The lights dimmed. Hana walked onto the stage first. Welcome, she said. Over the next week, we'll teach you human combat principles. But before we start, I want to make something clear. We're not here to show you that human methods are better than yours. We're here to show you that there are always more options than you think. She gestured to a table covered with everyday objects. A chair, a pipe, a piece of cloth, a length of chain, random items that had no obvious connection to combat. Humans see weapons everywhere, Hana continued. This is because we evolved as tool users. Our brains are wired to see how objects can be used, modified, and combined. Today, we're going to teach you to see the world the way humans do. Taemin joined her on stage. Let's start simple. Weapon improvisation. The ability to turn anything into a weapon is a survival skill. On Earth, our ancestors used whatever was available. Rocks became hammers, sticks became spears, bones became knives. He picked up the chair. What can you do with a chair? Sit on it, someone called out. Yes, what else? Silence. Taemin swung the chair in a wide arc. It's a shield. It creates distance. He flipped it and held the legs forward. It's a spear with 4 points. He smashed it against the ground, and it broke apart. Now it's 4 clubs and various sharp pieces. He held up a chair leg. Wood is hard. This can break bones. The broken end is sharp. This can puncture. And if I wrap cloth around this end, I have a handle for better grip. The cadets watched with new interest. A few took notes. Everything has multiple uses, Taman said. Humans learn to see all of them. That's the first lesson. Over the next 3 days, they taught improvisation. How to evaluate objects quickly. How to test weight and balance. How to identify weak points in structures that could be exploited. The alien cadets struggled with the concept. Their minds were trained to see objects for their designed purpose. A desk was for working. A pipe was for carrying water. Thinking of them as weapons required a mental shift. You're thinking too hard, Jiwan told a frustrated Krell. Don't analyze. Just ask yourself, can this hurt someone? If yes, how? The Krell looked at a metal pipe. It's heavy. I could hit someone with it. Good. What else? I could. Throw it? Yes. What else? The Krell thought. I could use it to block an attack. Better. What else? I don't know. Jiwan took the pipe. You could wedge it into a door to trap someone. You could use it as a lever to move heavy objects. You could roll it under someone's feet to trip them. You could drop it from above. You could use it to extend your reach. You could... Okay, the Krell said. I understand. One object, many uses. Exactly. That's thinking like a human. The second session focused on persistence tactics. This was harder to teach because it required experiencing human endurance firsthand. Commander Bora led this section. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We ran prey to exhaustion. This required exceptional stamina. So, we're going to run. 1. The cadets looked confused. Everyone outside, Bora commanded. We're doing a light jog, just 3 miles. 3 miles in low gravity should have been easy. It wasn't. Most species weren't built for sustained cardiovascular activity. They were sprinters, ambush predators, burst strength fighters. The humans jogged at a comfortable pace. After the first mile, cadets were dropping out. After 2 miles, only the most athletic non-humans remained. At 3 miles, just a handful of cadets besides the humans were still running. That was light? A Saurian gasped, bent over and breathing hard. That was our warm-up, Bora said cheerfully. On Earth, human soldiers run 3 to 5 miles most days. Special forces run 10 or more. That's insane. That's humanity. We keep moving. In nature, we would chase an animal for hours, sometimes days. We'd track it until it literally couldn't run anymore. Then we'd kill it while it was too exhausted to fight back. A Valix cadet looked disturbed. That seems cruel. It's efficient, Bora replied. We weren't fast enough to catch prey in a sprint. We weren't strong enough to overpower it. So, we used the one thing we had: endurance. We outlasted everything else on our planet. Everything? Everything. There's no land animal on Earth that can outrun a human over extreme distance. None. We're the endurance champions of our world. The cadets looked at the humans with new understanding and new respect. The third session covered psychological warfare and pattern recognition. Hana taught this part. Humans are excellent at reading behavior, she explained. We evolved in social groups, so we learned to predict what others would do. We read body language. We recognize patterns. We anticipate actions. She had Taman demonstrate with a Saurian volunteer. Attack me however you want, Taman told him. The Saurian lunged. Taman stepped aside before the lunge was complete. How did you know? The Saurian asked. Your weight shifted to your back foot first. Your shoulders tensed. Your eyes focused on your target. All tells. They practiced reading combat tells for hours. The humans could predict attacks with surprising accuracy. The aliens found it difficult. They weren't trained to observe so carefully. Humans watch everything, Hana said. We notice small details, changes in breathing, micro-expressions, weight distribution. We process this information automatically. It's how we survived predators. We learned to read intention before action. This is why you're dangerous, Vexthor observed from the side. You don't just react, you predict. Correct, Hannah said. And prediction is the foundation of strategy. On the fourth day, they taught environmental exploitation. How to use terrain. How to use structures. How to turn a location into an advantage. Taemin led cadets through mock combat scenarios in different environments. A corridor became a choke point. A stairwell became a height advantage. A room with furniture became an obstacle course that favored smaller, more agile fighters. Humans are adaptable, Taemin explained. We've fought in every environment. Earth offers deserts, jungles, mountains, Arctic ice, underground, in water. We learned that terrain is either an advantage or a disadvantage, depending on how you use it. But how do you learn so fast? A young cadet asked. You look at a space and immediately know how to use it. Practice, Taemin said. But also instinct. Humans are very good at spatial reasoning. We evolved climbing trees, navigating complex terrain, building shelters. Our brains are wired to understand three-dimensional space. He demonstrated by having cadets try to catch him in a equipment room. Taemin used every object, every corner, every height difference. He stayed ahead of larger, stronger opponents by constantly changing position and using obstacles. You're like water, Avalix said, frustrated after missing Taemin again. Good metaphor, Taemin said. Humans are fluid fighters. We adapt to whatever the situation requires. By the fifth day, the cadets were beginning to think differently. Akrel asked to spar with Taemin using human tactics. He used a piece of pipe as a weapon extender and managed to score several hits. Good, Taemin praised. You're learning. It feels wrong, the Krell admitted. Using tools. In my culture, warriors fight with their natural abilities. Using weapons is dishonorable. I understand, Taemin said. But honor doesn't mean much if you're dead. Humans learned that survival comes first. Honor is something you earn by living long enough to practice it. The Krell considered this a harsh philosophy, a realistic one. Earth was harsh. It made us harsh in return. On the final day, they held mixed species sparring sessions. Cadets partnered with different species and practiced combining techniques. Saurians learned to use leverage like humans. Krell learned to create distance with improvised weapons. Valix learned to read attack patterns. The results were impressive. Species that had never considered non-natural weapons were now using their environment effectively. Warriors who relied on strength were learning finesse. Everyone was adapting. Vexthor approached Taemin during a break. His cracked scales had healed, leaving faint scars. Corporal, I owe you an apology. For what? For my assumptions. When you first arrived, I saw you as weak, unremarkable, not worthy of this academy. And now? Now I see you as what you are. A predator from a death world who learned to survive by being smarter, tougher, and more adaptable than anything else on your planet. Vexthor paused. I was wrong about humans. Completely wrong. We're used to that, Taemin said without bitterness. Everyone underestimates us at first. Not anymore. Not here. Vexthor looked around the training hall. You've changed how we think about combat. About adaptation. About what makes a warrior effective. We just showed you our way. Every species has strengths. True. But humans have something unique. You have the ability to turn weakness into strength. To find advantages in disadvantages. That's rare. Oh. 8. The Academy Commandant announced the end of the seminar with a formal ceremony. He praised the humans for their teaching and announced a new permanent course in human combat principles. Taemin was offered a full-time instructor position. Will you accept? Hannah asked him later. I think so, Taemin said. Someone needs to keep teaching them. Teaching them what? To break furniture? Taemin laughed. To think differently. To see possibilities. To never give up. That's very human of you. Exactly. A month later, a new class of cadets arrived at the academy. The orientation followed the familiar pattern. Species were introduced. Instructors explained their specialties. And when the humans were mentioned, something different happened. The cadets didn't laugh. They didn't whisper. They leaned forward with interest. Humans, the commandant said, are tool users from a high-gravity world. They excel at adaptation, endurance, and strategic thinking. They will teach you to see your environment as a weapon. They will show you that victory comes not from natural advantages, but from the will to win, using whatever means available. End quote. Taemin stood in the demonstration hall, now an official academy instructor. A standard desk sat at the center of the floor. The new cadets watched with curiosity. Welcome, Taemin said. I'm going to teach you how to fight like a human. The first lesson is simple. Everything is a weapon. Let me show you. He placed his hand on the desk. The cadets watched closely. They'd heard the stories. The human who threw a Saurian instructor across a room, who broke academy furniture with his bare hands, who showed the coalition that soft skin didn't mean weakness. On Earth, Taemin began. We have a saying. It's not the size of the fighter that matters. It's the size of the fight in the fighter. He lifted the desk slightly, testing its weight. Humans aren't the biggest. We aren't the strongest. We aren't the fastest. But we're the ones who never stopped learning, never stopped adapting, never stopped finding new ways to win. He set the desk back down. That's what I'm going to teach you. Not how to be human, but how to think like one. How to see opportunities everywhere. How to turn every disadvantage into something useful. A young Saurian raised his claw. Instructor, is it true you destroyed a desk in combat? Taemin smiled. It's true. Was it difficult? No, Taemin said honestly. The difficult part was convincing everyone that a desk could be a weapon in the first place. Once they believed it, the rest was easy. Can we learn this? You're here, aren't you? That means you're ready to learn. Whether you're Saurian, Krell, Valix, or human, the principles are the same. Adapt, improvise, overcome. Those three words built humanity from prey to predator. They can help you too. The class began. Cadets from a dozen worlds learned to see their surroundings differently, to question assumptions, to recognize that warfare wasn't just about natural gifts. And in the corner, Vexthor watched with approval. The galaxy was changing. Understanding was replacing prejudice. Respect was replacing contempt. All because one human broke a desk and showed everyone that strength comes in many forms. That intelligence matters more than claws. That adaptability beats armor. And that the most dangerous weapon in the universe isn't technology or biology. It's the refusal to give up, no matter what.